do it. Hello and good afternoon, Jen. How are you?
Hi, I'm good, Jenny. How are you?
I'm good. I am so excited to finally have you on the show, and your energy is absolutely inspiring, and I love to feel that. So I just want to introduce you real quick to my audience. So let's see. Well, you love to be happy, and we know we can see by your personality that you are a happy person. And a wellness coach. She is a mama of three and has many books around her and different modalities to help us with our everyday life, and is also an author. So we're going to learn about Jen's journey and tell us where did you start, or how did you start your journey? What prompted you to have like a better life, I suppose?
That's a really good way of saying it. So I'm gonna say it was in about 12 to 15 years ago that I even ventured into a quote unquote journey. And you would have said that maybe like my journey began when I found out that I had celiac disease with my three kids back in 2003. And that I would say would be like a small step in the journey, which at the time felt like the biggest step, since in 2003 there was no food, and food is really important to me. Food
Absolutely.
is like, I'm a huge foodie, being an Italian American and New
Mhm.
Yorker. I mean, every occasion revolved around food. But because I was so sick for the better part of most of my life, since about the age of 8, and we never could figure out what was wrong, the doctors were completely baffled. How can you be happy and be this sick? I'm like, well, do you have a choice? Like, you want to live a happy life. So
Yeah.
that made no sense to me. So I had to kind of put illness to the back burner and continue to live life. And it wasn't until 2003, I had been in the hospital several times and I found out about celiac, that I had that. And that explained so much of my life and my children's lives. But it wasn't until years later that I realized, even though I had that diagnosis and even though we were strictly gluten free, that there were many other things happening inside my body that I had to address. And so I really stepped into wellness, first in the body, more and more in the body. What am I doing? Why does my arthritis hurt? Why is everything hurting? Like, I just had to tackle that. And then after some years, I found out a lot of it was mindset, and you
Wow.
know, what I believed, the beliefs I had about myself, weren't very nice.
Wow.
Let's
Now,
be honest.
when you were growing up and you mentioned like going back to like when you were 8, very, very young, what kind of symptoms were you having?
I
If you remember, I guess back
oh
then.
gosh, I remember. It doesn't be too graphic for the channel, but no, I had stomach aches all the time.
Okay.
Okay, and oftentimes I would eat and go to the bathroom immediately, like within 15 to 20 minutes, the entire meal.
Wow.
So it was almost like my body just couldn't digest it at all and just evacuated.
Wanted it out.
So it was horrible. But it wasn't like it was every single day, which was kind of a mystery. Because I would be sick for, let's just say, a week or 2 weeks, and then I'd be good for a week, and so there was no rhyme or reason. And much like autoimmune diseases, it's like it builds up until it's a cacophony of everything.
Right.
And I bless my mom. I mean, she tried so hard to find an answer for me too. But after a while, I'm like, why even bother them anymore? I would pass out in the bathroom. I mean, sweats. And so I started to adapt like a way of just living. Like, I was so sick sometimes, and I would just, eat crackers, which I didn't know what gluten was, much less wheat or anything else. So really, what was hurting me was what I was eating to soothe myself.
Yeah.
Pastina, the Italian American again, pastina with butter and Parmesan cheese. It was, the things that were hurting me.
Yep.
But I just tried to muster the courage. And then sometimes I would just like say, okay, so the food, when I eat, I get sick. So I want to go to that party, so I won't eat.
Okay.
And so I started to do that with food. And then I felt safer to be the level of sick I was at home. So I would make sure I ate at home. So I just started to just
Like adapt
eat more.
almost, right? Yeah.
Yeah. College was a bit of a pickle, that was a bit hard living with other people.
Okay.
But I just did the best I could because there were no answers. And no medication. And they prescribed everything, you name it. No medication helped. So I stopped taking medication because it never stopped.
Right. It never really helped you to manage any symptoms because you were still, I mean, you still to eat, so you were
Right.
still having the issues.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So what I did oftentimes as a younger person, I remember this very vividly. And then when I got pregnant with my kids, I noticed the same patterns I was doing. When I would have the bouts, of being so sick, I would get sick and then I would wait like an hour and go, I have to eat. So then I guess instinctually, I would reach for a vegetable or a fruit. I needed something else to eat because I had just been so sick. So it's probably like my body was saying, gosh, you're not getting it, but you need to eat something whole food. So, and I just did the best I could. I was very malnourished, which meant then I learned at 35 years old, what I was back then was so malnourished.
So now, how did you actually find out? Was because I know that they can do blood tests, but those aren't accurate all the time. I know
Right.
that you can do the endoscopy. They
Biopsy.
have to take the biopsies.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's more accurate. My brother-in-law was diagnosed later in life too as a celiac, unfortunately, and he's the only one that we know of in his
Right.
family. So, but do they consider celiac like as a hereditary
Oh yeah.
disease?
Oh yeah.
It is.
My grandmother died very early. My father died at the age of 63. And when we look at back at, what myself and my children had, my father was, I mean, textbook. It's just even down to the sister disease, the dermatitis herpetiformis, like my daughter and I have that, which is like a rash from like the knee to the ankle. So, but what did you know? I mean, what are you kidding me? We can't have pasta. Like that was our thinking. And we take for granted that everybody knows all this information, but back then, celiac disease was considered you were anorexic and malnourished meant you didn't eat food. Well, I'm sorry, but did you ever meet Jen? Like, I'm gonna eat food. So sorry. I even had a nurse once
Feed
tell
me.
me, you think you're celiac disease? Did you lose an extraordinarily large amount of weight? Like so judgmental. I said, oh, I got tears in my eyes. I'm like, oh my God, is she calling me fat? Like, but
That's
she expected.
awful. Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
yeah.
No, that's
So,
awful.
but when I found out in 2003, it wasn't even on my radar. A friend of mine who had taken me to the hospital just the week before, had been with me in the hospital because my husband was away, had gotten diagnosed the following week. And she said, Jen, sit down. We got to talk about this. You have got to go to the doctor,
Hmm.
And so that's from there on, we went down that gluten-free
Wow.
path.
And so then your children, were they having like the same symptoms as you were when you were young?
Actually, my kids were even worse, believe it or not, than I was. And each one had a myriad of different things. Like my son at the age of 6 was bleeding from his intestines. And the doctors said that he was allergic to my breast milk. And
Okay.
so I thought so it was years later that we found out, obviously, it was celiac. And my middle child had a lot of respiratory and she had 3 operations for her tubes and then her adenoids and her tonsils. And then it was just always something. And sure enough, as soon as we did it, I mean, her folder was like this thick, the poor kid.
Oh my goodness.
I mean, really had to be careful. Like the doctors thought, like, how to make sure I'm not doing anything to her. They're like, no,
Right.
they had to, that due diligence, like, why is she here again? I'm like, look in her ears. Okay. Okay. Cause I make an appointment like every week. And my oldest one, believe it or not, had a lot of gastro problems, horrible, but she was extremely non-responsive, like in a cloud. Like
Hmm.
you talk to her and she's like, what? And I'd say, how was your day at school? And she's like, all right. What'd you do? Nothing. What do you mean nothing? And it's like her personality
Wow.
started to change a lot. Like that kind of took her a while to respond.
Wow.
Back then in Georgia, I didn't want to take her through the school system, but I was getting phone calls from the school too, because I knew the teachers, because I volunteered. And they said, Jen, something going on at home? I said, good. My husband just started working more. And they're like, no, it's anything. We're worried about Alex. I'm like, I don't know. What do you mean? And they're like, she's not responding in class. So I got her hearing tested, her vision tested. And then I was afraid to get her tested at school because there was no inclusion at the time. It was always, if the kid had something, they were separated. So I took her to a private facility, and they told me that she had uh, ADHD to the nth degree. Like, she was non-responsive. So we tested, went on gluten-free diet, in the weeks, and literally that non-responsive child who would get an A and then an F, second grade, then get a B plus and then get a 0. It went from that to scholar. Never again, never. This child is she's my adult child of, 26, has been for almost 20 years, like an overachiever, fantastic, alert, productive. We went from night and day.
See, it's actually really scary to think that it just food, just something that we literally put in our systems every single day. And like, I know that diet is huge, and I have to be more, cautious with what I eat with my digestive issues. But as a busy mom, when you're running around just doing things for the kids, it's like, okay, there's a cookie on the counter. Well, I'm hungry, I'm going to grab that cookie,
Right.
but you realize it's just empty calories, and it's just stuff, it's just garbage.
Right.
Like, I know that, but for me to take time to actually cut up vegetables for myself, but I'll do it for my kids. But it's like, you got to realize too that your health matters, because if you're not there and capable, you can't be there for your children. So it's really a crapshoot. Like, you have to really take care of yourself to take care of your kids, but you also have to realize that if you want to feel better, you have to do the things that are better for your body.
Yeah, and that's a hard. You hit the nail on the head on that one. That's very hard. And as a mother, we want to make our kids happy, right?
Yeah.
And what would make your kid happy? Having carrot sticks with hummus, if they've had a granola bar covered in chocolate before, they're going to be like, Mom, clearly not a replacement. So that was very tough. But so I just started baking things and cooking things and making alternative things. And but obviously, as the years went on, there were more choices at the grocery store. But then I slowly realized for myself that it went beyond the gluten-free diet. For me personally, I had a lot of inflammation in my body. So doing the gluten-free diet clearly helped with so many things that were running in my life before, but I needed a step further. I had a car accident when I was 18. And as a result of that, there was a lot of trauma in the body, which I didn't know at the time until obviously years later. So I have arthritis. I sit here in my 50s and I have arthritis from my neck all the way down to my feet, to my big toe.
Wow.
So how do you deal with that? You have to make an effort for yourself. So showing up a little bit happy about the effort really affects the kids. If you look at your carrot and hummus and say, God, I don't want to do this, what do you think your kids are going to be like? Mom, eat the carrot and hummus. They're not going to.
Yes.
So I started going beyond the carrot and hummus and having those things available, always cutting up. They were always cut up. So no one had to second guess. The apples were cut up. The vegetables were cut up. But then I would make like maybe an almond cookie with, honey, and, I would try to do something like that. Or I would take the chocolate chips and I would crunch them really small and add a little bit of chocolate chips sporadically through it. So it wasn't like, 2 cups of chocolate chips. It was a half a cup.
Yeah.
And little tweaks like that. And
I love that idea, by the way. That's a great idea.
I tried anything. I tried anything. I mean, I was the mom when my oldest was born, and she wouldn't eat, she wouldn't eat vegetables. But she would love these meat sticks. Gosh, in 1995, like they were disgusting, and they were meat sticks. So I said, she likes those. So I made meatloaf in meat sticks, and I would take vegetables and puree them and stick them in the middle of it and make these little meat, and she ate them. So she ate the vegetables.
Oh,
so I just tried to
be creative and yeah.
But I was excited about it. And I tried to be excited about it too. And my youngest, who's now going to be 23 this year, he came to me one time when he was little and he goes, Mama, everybody wanted my brownie today. And I'm like, oh, you sweet little thing.
Oh, that's sweet. Oh.
So we're happy about his different food.
You do have to be creative when you're a mom. I mean, if you really want to get your kids eating some sort of healthy lifestyle. My daughter is going to be 13 next month, and she's been struggling from migraines. But she will not eat meat for me. She will literally, the only thing she'll eat is a chicken finger. And which obviously is still just not the best thing to eat because it's fried and everything. But she's such a carb, she's just noodles, noodles, noodles. And so I'm trying to do more smoothies with her and get her at least eating some fruits and vegetables. But she's very, very tough and so stubborn.
Yeah,
And it's difficult, so we're trying some new things, and she likes to bake, so
that's
maybe
good.
I can don't you have a gluten-free cookbook that you put together, right?
Well, I don't have I have on my YouTube channel, I have all my foods that I do. I do have my own, I'm starting to compile one as a downloadable thing, but I don't have one mass, mass produced like my other books.
Well, get that going. Let's go. That's your
No,
next
no,
step,
I
right?
know. I do think that it's really important though, like that you just said, that maybe there's a reason why we're talking about this. A good way to make the cookbook is to maybe more talk about what you just said about your daughter, like ding, 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 like lights are, it's like an arcade, because your daughter is a great example of not just kids, but even adults. Like we sit and we wonder, why aren't I feeling better? And whenever I coach somebody, I often say, have you reached your rock bottom yet? Like my rock bottom was there.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm talking 17 migraines a month,
Mm.
just cacophony of pills for blood pressure, this thing, the other thing. And once I learned I could lessen that pain by eating different things, the foodie in me was like, it's got to taste good, darn it. I mean, it's just got to taste good. So I can make it taste good.
Yeah.
I mean, finding out, I tell to people like for your daughter would be the best example. Like there's a trigger, there is definite triggers. And so when I first introduced, guys, we have to be celiac. I mean, my kids were under the age of 8, like at 8 years old and under. How do you tell a kid, like, everything you know now is gone?
Yeah. And they
My
don't really
daughter,
know what that means. And they're like, well, what do you mean? You're taking away everything I've ever, used to eat and in my diet.
so we just sat in a little like circle on the kitchen floor, and I sat with them and I said, you know how you don't feel good when you do this? And then they would get tears in their eyes. Yes, I don't like that. And I said,
Heartbreaking.
well, I was so pitiful. It was like my heart was breaking. And I said, we're just doing this so that we could feel good. Don't you want to play more? I want to play more. I want to watch TV and stay awake to the end of the story. And like we went around the circle and said what each one of us wanted to do. And they said, I made it a game. Like, let's just try this. And then literally no one ever complained again about the food that I mean, don't get me wrong. My kids were like, I wish I could have this in a wrapper. And I said, we're going to find something in a wrapper. Like, we're going to get excited. I always had things in the freezer for them. So for like your daughter, yeah, I still want chicken fingers. I mean, why wouldn't you want still to have chicken fingers? But maybe find a way to make them without the processed and make them at home. Like she can get to be part of it.
Right. Yeah.
Like let's start making this stuff. Air fryers, man, use that olive oil, make it crunchy, and use the air fryer. And I don't know, there's definite ways so we don't have to, there's no reason why we need to miss out on eating good food. I just think that we need to, enjoy our food.
Now, do you, because I know you mentioned you're an Italian and obviously love all the carbs and stuff. So what do
Yes.
you just have a substitute like gluten-free noodle when you make pastas?
Yes.
And
So
then
we have our favorites. My favorite gluten-free noodle is a company called Tink Yada. But my children, 2 out of 3, love the rice and corn based ones, which now I think like Ronzoni and all these other places make them in the grocery store, but those are more corn and white rice based. I just know from my own body system, after years and years of studying my own system, that corn is not my favorite. I love it. Okay, I love corn. I love to eat corn chips and everything, but my body's like, yeah, I'm going to slow down on the corn. And, so I try not to eat that as much. Now, if we're making it and the kids come over and that's what they want, I'll have a serving of it. But if I'm eating it by myself, I prefer. So those brands, Tinkyata is my favorite, but the easy to get at the grocery store ones are my kids' favorite.
Yeah, I haven't heard of this Tinkyata. I mean, we have, a few now that are just, stocked in your grocery store.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously the selection is, very, very minimal. Um, but maybe that's something that you can get online.
Yeah, so you probably could get it on Amazon, but where I always compare my prices, because gluten-free stuff is more expensive, and that's just the way the world is, guys. I know we're gonna get there's a whole other train of thought that it's aggravating to people, but it costs more. It's a specialty. So I go to compare the prices at like Amazon, the grocery store, and Vitacost, VITACOST.
Okay.
And they always offer coupons and all these kinds of things, but I find Tinkyata there often. And I'll find other mixes and things like that of flours. And they have vitamins and all that too, but I compare prices.
Okay. Now you just mentioned, how important is flour when if I'm making a gluten-free cupcake, but I'm using my regular flour, that's going to throw the whole recipe off?
Yeah,
Right.
but nowadays so we used to make it, and this was always my rule of thumb whenever I was talking to somebody, you just got to think of it this way. You're obviously taking out the binding, the glue, the gluten is the glue. So I would always say 2 parts protein, so whatever the flour is, rice, buckwheat, oat, and yes, oat is a whole other thing for celiacs. That's many celiacs are reactive to oat flour or oats. But even in their manufactured gluten-free, some people still have a sensitivity. So you've got to just know your own system. For us, all 4 of us, we're fine with oats. So any other protein. So 2 parts protein and 1 part the starch, arrowroot, tapioca, potato starch. And then you need to add in that glue, and that is usually in guar gum or xanthan gum.
Mm-hmm.
So 2 parts, 1 part, and then a teaspoon up to 2 teaspoons, depending on how much flour. And that was the way it used to be. Now they have all-purpose flour in any market, any store, 1-to-1. I think Bob Red Mill calls it 1-to-1. And you can literally take any recipe you see and replace the all-purpose flour that is gluten and put your own gluten-free. Or you can do that 2-to-1 with the xanthan or the guar gum additive. And play. I mean, just play around. I literally have like 5 or 6 combinations of bread recipes that I use to put it up on YouTube, because we don't always have the same taste. Sometimes you want something different.
Very true. Very true. I will absolutely make sure that everybody, can see your YouTube channel with all your yummy recipes, because I know that people that even are celiac and have for a long time are always want something new, and what may work for you or what you may find yummy may, not for the other, but somebody else is going to go, that's an awesome idea, and I am going to try that. So yeah, that's definitely something we will.
And you can eat literally, just because if you're trying a gluten-free diet, and there's so many people, and I'm right there patting their back, I'm cheering for them. Many people do not need the diagnosis. They don't even want to go to the doctors, maybe even for insurance reasons, right? There's a lot of, nowadays insurance won't cover whatever the reason. But your happiness and your wellness, or your guiding light in life. I mean, why should you have this life experience that's miserable and painful?
Yeah.
So if you want to investigate it, there's tons of support. I mean, just obviously reach out to me if I could cheerlead you through. But I'm a big advocate on, if you do not want that diagnosis, but you want to be well, then let's just get cracking. Let's start figuring it out. And if it's not gluten, then let's move on. What is it?
Right. There's something else. Yeah.
Yeah.
This morning, Thursday, I released an episode with another wonderful woman that I met. And she's not celiac, but she needed a plant-based diet. And through trial and error, and everybody is different, but again, it's like, it's a shame that you feel that you mentioned before, you have to, or you don't want to hit rock bottom, but at some point you're going to go, I cannot continue to feel like this. Why do I have to feel, like crap in order for me to be like, okay, I'm going to finally make a change? Why can't we just be like, I'm not okay with feeling like this? But a lot of people just don't want to give up, the stuff. And that's partly my problem too. I love chocolate. Good
Yeah.
Lord, I have a hard time passing a donut or a chocolate chip cookie or something. But I have discipline. I have self-control. Like, maybe I'll take a nibble, in the morning. I'll take one cookie and I'll take a nibble maybe through the day where I don't have to shove the whole thing in my mouth.
You're so
But
good.
at least it's a little bit throughout the day. Or like, because I did a gluten-free diet probably well over 6 years now, and I didn't feel 100% better. So it didn't make or break me. And it was challenging because I was doing all these different diets and making different things for me, for my kids, for my husband, and it was tough.
Love it.
So I stopped. But now with you, does your husband now, will he just eat what you're making, or are you
Okay,
making
so
him?
you're Jenny, I swear you're gonna laugh at this, and I swear I'm not making this up.
Uh-oh.
My house is is strictly gluten-free. Not a gluten passes my doorstep. It's just the way it is. My husband is a bread distributor.
Oh, oh my
That's
gosh.
hilarious. We have had a gluten-free household. I mean, even when we used to live where I raised my kids, where we knew everybody in the town and we'd have big parties, everything I cooked was gluten-free. But my husband, yeah, he owns a distributing company and he distributes bread. And I think that's hilarious. But no, he gets his gluten elsewhere. But he eats everything I cook because I wasn't joking when I said I'm a big foodie. Like, I really find food to me, and I wrote about it in my book, it's been a thing for me. It's been a common theme. I love it so very much. It means family and celebration to me. But my relationship with food, I had a little bit of an eating disorder there for several years. When I was trying to work out, I had no control, and I didn't realize that my mind was part of it. So I was battling my own demons. And finally, when I figured out, you got to fly straight, sister. You have these beautiful children, this beautiful family. So I still loved food and I still created these great recipes. I just had to learn my relationship with food, my relationship with my body and wellness. And so, yeah, girl, I'm going to make a brownie, and God bless you for breezing past that and eating a bite. I'm going to eat the whole brownie. But the difference is, then I will be, on my better eating plan, because I don't call it a diet anymore. It's just the way I live for the rest of the week, or the rest of the next couple of weeks, until the next fun thing comes up, or we go out and I find gluten-free onion rings. You know what I mean? So, and I'm not going to deny myself, I'll have that. But then I go back to, that's just a meal, if you will. And then the rest is life.
So now, when do you kind of try to just avoid going out to dinner, or do you just kind of try to tweak and
I go out.
things in the menu?
I go out. What I do, I go out. I again, it's a mindset thing too. I remember way back when there was a lot of fear. And so whenever there's fear, then it was not a wonder why we would eat, get sick. Now I go out, I'm in control. I go to places that offer gluten-free or have knowledge of it. I'm not going to walk into a fried shrimp and, biscuit place and expect to eat a meal.
Yeah.
That's just ridiculous. I'm not going to go to a place that does hand tossed pizzas and you see all the flour and then ask for a salad. That's just ridiculous. I mean, I'm smart about it. So I'll go to a place and then I'm just going to go. I know I'm educated. I say, okay, so I see your gluten-free menu. How are you making that pizza? And they say, well, could we do it in a separate room? I said, well, when you put it in the stone, where are you doing it in the stone? I said, separate paddle. I said, you got me. You're good. I said, I will know in 20 minutes if you're lying.
Right. Well, because some people use it as a phase, right? As a diet trend. or whatever, and I'm celiac, but I don't necessarily, it doesn't affect me as,
Right.
if to the extent that it would affect you.
Right.
Like myself, I feel that I just have like an intolerance. I just cut it out when I can. If I go to a restaurant and there's a gluten-free noodle, I'll get that meal, but with a gluten-free noodle, it doesn't make me feel as heavy, because with my gastroparesis, my stomach just does not digest food well. So I just don't feel as full, sometimes eating I guess, like that. So,
Right.
um,
Right. I
but yeah.
I we owned a restaurant for 5 years, and it was a New York style restaurant outside of Savannah. And obviously myself and my kids, I wanted to be able to eat there since I spent so much time there. So I adopted the gluten-free the sandwiches and all gluten-free bread, but I would take precautions. And when I would ask a patron, so this is how I try to be the restaurant goer, is with the same mentality. I would ask the person who's ordering, is this an allergy or a dietary necessity, or is it just a desire? In other words,
Mhm.
do I have to change my gloves? That I just want to arm with knowledge. And they said, oh gosh, I just can't have any gluten. Well, then we would prepare. And then somebody would say, oh no, I just do it for my, for my wellness, but I'm okay if there's a cross contamination. I'm still going to make that meal gluten-free for you, but then I don't have to change the boards and the knives. So that's how I go out to eat. I don't, I want to be a victor, not a victim. I want to be, feel good, and I don't want to feel unsafe. So I just got to not, be knowledgeable.
Right. And people, you hope that where you go would understand that. I know, because some workers, unfortunately, or the young ones that aren't really educated with these things, yeah, I think so, I think this,
Yeah,
and then you don't want to be like, well, I need to know for sure, like, can you please
100%.
check that?
Oh yeah.
And
It happens, right, Jenny? I mean, it does happen. So if I go to a place that has it on the menu and someone says to me, like, I'm not going to attack people, because I don't want to be attacked back. So I'm all about peace and love. So,
and
so
harmony.
if someone says like, I think so, I said, oh, one time was a manager who came over and said, I think so. I said, Kathy, no thinking, no thinking, just knowing facts. Find out, get the chef, get the label, or I don't eat here. That's all. It's all good.
Yeah.
If you can't guarantee, that chef came out, he goes, listen, different thing. I could do your hamburger on it, whatever. Are you okay with no bun? Our French fries are the only things in the fryer. By the end of the communication, I had a great burger with a whole bunch of vegetables extra on top and French fries. I was able to eat with my friends, but no thinking, no guessing.
Right. It's very important. Like, I need to know, and you'll know if I have to, make a beeline for your restroom in about 20 minutes. So yeah. Oh, it's just not
But
worth
like, again,
it.
if they didn't have the GF there, we wouldn't have that conversation, right? Because we wouldn't be in the place.
Right.
So, and I do notice that, like, that is a big, huge thing. Like, I often tell this, and I tell it to my kids, but I tell it to clients all the time. It's fighting with what is. That's what it's called. Fighting with what is. You don't go into a restaurant that doesn't even say or know or think gluten is glucose and expect to get a safe
Right.
meal. You're
Yeah.
fighting with what is.
Right. Right. Absolutely. Well, I want to, on a different note, I just want to mention your book. Tell us a little
Yeah.
bit about your book and all about that journey.
So my book is all the parts of me and that is me jumping. So that is literally not photoshopped. I am taking air, taking flight.
Love
And
it.
and the reason why I think that's so important is because of I just had back surgery just a few years before that, foot surgery. A month after the foot surgery, the doctor came back and said, because my bone was sticking back out again, and he said the arthritis is all back and that, and it was just a cacophony of pain in the body. And I said to myself, I just got to keep going on this mindful practices. And so the book, All the Parts of Me, is really recognizing and accepting all the things that make me up. And I'm hoping that people read it, they can see the same for themselves, that we are spiritual beings on a human experience. And if we honor and understand a little bit about that and a little bit about, both parts, that we could live here and deal with things that come up without being constantly feeling like we're under attack or feeling as if we're hopeless and not empowered.
Right.
So mindset, spirituality, wellness, it's all parts of it. And my story was, there's some parts of it are not very nice. It was painful, but I consider that my story. That was what got me here. So when people say, well, let's talk about this and talk about that, I said, well, I can talk about it, but that's not who I am right now. I am not the person that was, told after my car accident, right before my wedding. I remember, this is a true story. Let me tell you this really quick. This is why I mean, like, the story is not who I am today. I was seeing spots in my eyes, and I was working and I was getting headaches. I didn't know they were migraines at the time. And so I thought, spots in the eyes, go to the eye doctor, right?
Right.
So I went to the eye doctor, and they had an appointment like the day or two later. So I went to get my eyes checked, and he was like, oh, all right, hold on a second. And he gets out of the room, and but way back then there was no cell phone. So he gets out of the room, comes back in. I have an appointment for you for tomorrow. And I'm like, I'm coming back? He goes, no, I got to take you to a specialist. You got to go to a retinal specialist. Do you have someone to drive you? I'm like, can I use your phone? My mom would be able to drive me. Why can't I drive myself? He's like, no, they're going to do some probably, you won't be able to see afterwards. They're going to look deep into your eye, yada, yada, yada. Okay, I have a driver. I don't know what the heck he was talking about. No Google search. What's a retina? I don't know what a retina is,
Yeah.
So he said it just was beyond our scope. Anyway, my car accident when I was 18, here I am, newly engaged. We're going to get married in a few months. I'm thinking babies. And then I'm sitting in this retinal surgery, and he goes, oh, wow. You have lattice degeneration in both eyes, holes all over your retina. He said, you're going to have to make a decision today what you want to do, because as a doctor, I have to tell you that you might not be able to see tomorrow. Like, if you left my office and your mom steps on the brake really sharp, you could be blind.
Oh my gosh.
So that was a result of the car accident, among other things. So it's almost like that was who I was. I don't relive that now. We dealt with it. It brought me here. And now my mindset about all those things has changed. I'm not the victim anymore of all of those things,
Right. They're just I consider myself an onion that has lots of layers. And so it's just another layer I'm still there, but it was a layer that made me who I am today. So,
Yeah.
wow, that's got to be scary though. So what did they just do, like a surgery and you're?
So yeah, they did. So it was either going to the hospital and getting what they called a buckle, or because I was young and healthy for the most part, right? Except for the stomach. So they didn't know what that was. So I was still healthy. That's what they considered. They did laser surgery for a couple of days in both of my eyes. And so now I just have, it's held, knock on wood, thank God. But, I developed a lot of fear, a fearful mindset as the years went on because of all of these things that kept coming up. But I don't have that fearful mindset anymore because I addressed it. I feel like, I know more about myself. I accept the parts of me, but I know that I can do and be whoever I want to be. I just have to see myself differently. And that's what I did. Just worked on it. I worked on it,
You do. I think you have to come to peace with what is actively inside of you, and what has, if you just keep denying it, you're never going to see it for what it is. Just address it and deal with it, and then move on. Like, you got to let it heal.
But it's hard to face, don't you think?
I think absolutely. I wasn't in this spot, in this position, even just 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And I don't think that me being, I turned 42 in September, but I think that you don't realize that until you become a certain age, almost, like you need to reach a certain level of maturity and, deal with a certain amount of trauma and grief in your life to be like, there's got to be more. There's got to be a better way to live. And you do have to hit almost a certain, I don't want to say rock bottom. I hope I hit my own rock bottom for whatever it was, and I needed out for my mental peace and for my kids. I mean, my kids are, I mean, they were at the time of 10 and 11, or I think they were, and they were young. I didn't want them to see me miserable, laying on the couch 24/7. That wasn't who I wanted to be for them, and I didn't want to show up like that for them.
Right.
So I had to do better. And regardless of days that, I think a chronic illness or inflammation within your body, it's not gone. I don't think it's never going to be gone 100%. There are days that I need to rest, and I recognize that, and I'm at peace with that. But days that I feel good, and I take advantage of that. I'm comfortable with not overdoing it, but I have to tell myself slow down, because sometimes I just want to do everything. I got to work out and do this and this, and but no,
Yeah.
I take it one day at a time, and just heal and do what I can.
And I think that's really good. And I try to, the reason why I wrote the book and the reason why I even speak about it, I'm very passionate about speaking about it, because it hurts a little part of me to think that anybody is living in a life experience that hurts them and that they're not enjoying life. I really believe that we were all here and born to be happy. And we're trying to figure out what that looks like for us, and like peel, like you said, the onion layers off, but it's addressing it. So sometimes it's hard for people to face the things, but when we face them and we address them in whatever level it is, if it is wellness in the body, if it's understanding who you are as a spiritual being connected to like source or whatever God you call it, whatever name you give it. I call it God, but connected to that source can open up peace and happiness. And that's really key. So then when you have that in your heart and that becomes like your song, relationships are easier and more joyful. People, strangers, experiences. I mean, and then lo and behold, your body starts to feel well. You're having better wellness in the body because you're happier. It's
Gratitude.
like
Yeah.
you attract it. It comes more to you. It's a vibration. So, I mean, I speak about it so that you don't have to be 53 years old. I want you to be 20 years old. I want you to be 13 years old and start that.
Yeah.
Mindful practices do not have to start later in life. They should start younger.
They should be teaching these, especially nowadays in school with everything that's going on around us. These kids don't know how to deal with anxiety and all of these emotions because they just bottle it up. Well, they don't know what to do. I still have a hard time figuring out, how do I deal with all these emotions and anxiety? And you got to check in with yourself. And how do you tell a 10-year-old, okay, listen, you can't tell somebody to ever calm down.
The worst thing, right?
Stop being so mad. You're okay. No, really, it doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
And it's hard. And even myself trying to tell my children, but I'm their mom, and moms don't know anything.
Oh, you know
They
nothing, right?
still have to hear it from somebody else, which is fine. But I want them to feel safe that they can go to somebody else, because you mentioned, if you need to go to a therapist or I need to talk to somebody, all of a sudden they think, well, something is wrong with me. No, there's nothing wrong with you. You are being strong, and you are, handling yourself maturely, that, you have something going on that needs to be addressed, and you want to feel better,
Right.
because it's just going to continue to eat you up. You have to let it out and let it heal it and let it go. It's just going to continue to build.
When I always tell people whenever they're speaking with me, I say, I don't want you to have to speak with me for years. What we're doing is giving you the tools so that whatever we're talking about now, you can do on your own. Because you think about this, whatever you seek out in life, you're gonna have to take, this person's going to be gone from you in an hour or whatever, and then the real world is going to come creeping in. How is the real world? How are you going to interact with the real world? Gather these as tools. That's what I would say to anybody who would seek out therapy or energy modalities. It's lovely to go to somebody and you feel wonderful, but what am I going to take away from this experience that I can use in my real life?
Yeah.
That's
And
it.
you really have to be like, okay, I I know that I can do this. My
Yes.
my son at an early age had very bad anxiety. I mean, before he went to school every day, I mean, first, second, third, fourth grade, stomach ache, felt like he was going to throw up. And just now he's in sixth grade. And he's, I mean, just so much better. But I've watched him sometimes when he was coming back from school, and if he has he's a hockey player, if he has a hockey game, and he'll go, Mom, I'm feeling a little sick. I'm going to do my counting. And he does, like, he has these tools. And
Mm,
I smiled from the inside looking at him from the side. I'm driving him home. And I go, that's fantastic, because to recognize that was
mm.
huge for a 10-year-old to do. You know what I mean? That's a huge step, because adults can't even, like, they may know that they're upset or something, but they're not going to be like, okay, well, maybe I should just close my eyes and try to breathe, and because they don't want to, they think they're past that. Well, no,
Right.
sometimes
That's
you just,
really amazing that he
you know
does that. It's
yeah.
fantastic.
I was so proud of him. I looked at him, I go, you do that, you do what you got to do, dude. And he was
Yeah.
fine, but he's been so much better. He's definitely got other anger issues, as any, teen boy,
Oh,
but he he's better. He's good.
that's fantastic. That's fantastic that he can do that, having the calming down response, because that's a life tool for, I mean, when you're working and you start to work for somebody else,
Right.
you're handling customers or clients or whatever. Yeah, I mean, this is life skills. And in this world we live in, you have all types of different personalities, and I just notice a lot of people feel under attack. That's like the mindset I love a lot. And I just try to give, for myself, the tools that I use for myself to give to other people, is that you're not under attack. You can see every situation differently. Just give yourself a different perspective. And then when you start to do that, you almost can't help but the next interaction seeing it differently. So your son started to use that. I'm looking at this as I'm starting to feel yucky. I'm going to use this tool, and as he's using this, he starts to see the situations differently.
You have the control and the power to get past what it is that you're going through, but you do have to recognize that feeling. It's important.
Yeah, it's powerful, powerful stuff. I mean, there's no reason why we shouldn't enjoy our life experiences. And if we think that we do, then if we think that life is hard or difficult, then maybe we need to look at that mindset right there, because
Right.
life can be enjoyable and food can be enjoyable, and
Right.
our friendships and experiences, they can bring us joy.
Absolutely. And we're put on this earth for one time that we know of, anyways.
Right, as us, right?
As this human being, yeah, this yeah. And yeah, it's definitely meant to live
I
the
think
best life
so.
we can live. Yeah.
I think so. I really, really do. And I wouldn't, for me personally, I would not take back 1 second. And you say, oh my gosh, I mean, I have 10 operations under my belt, all that stuff. I wouldn't change 1 second of it, because because I'm living a very joyful. I have 3 beautiful children who are healthy and balanced. I mean, and because of, maybe because I went through so much and I screwed up along the way, so to say, that I was okay. Whatever I did back then, guys, I'll apologize for.
All
But
right.
I mean, we all learned, we all grew together, so.
Right. Absolutely. We all have a history. We gotta just take it with a grain of salt, like they say, and
Right,
use it to our advantage and learn from the situation and go about our lives and hopefully follow the right path. And now we're here to help others hopefully realize that they can too do the same thing.
right. And we really can, and that literally is the reason why I wrote my book, because do I really want to put all my yuck out there? Like, no, I mean, it really wasn't what I wanted to do, but I felt like if I did that, then maybe I helped a few people, and I have gotten that feedback that already, that it helped people to see their lives differently, and then that was enough. That was the reason I did it,
Yeah.
to help them
Sometimes your
see
story
themselves.
is it may not be what you think it is, but it's definitely could help somebody else that they can connect with and see themselves in your story, and that if you can do it and you got past it, well, maybe so can I.
Yeah, and
So,
I hope that, I really do hope that they could be jumping one day too, and hiking when, they were once in the bed and bedridden like I was. So,
Funny you say that. I have when I did my photo shoot in October,
Yeah.
I have a picture of myself in a bikini, but I have had 6 abdominal surgeries, so my stomach looks like a dartboard. I'm not completely happy about it, but I put on a bikini for
Love
the
it.
photo shoot because I was like, I'm here. I did a couple changes, but my good friend did the photos for me, and it was cold. I'm in Buffalo. It wasn't a warm day. The pool was just about getting closed, so I'm like, all right. I put on the bathing suit. 1, 2, 3. I jumped in. I got my arms up, and it's on. I think I have the picture on one of my social medias, but me too. I'm jumping up in the air like, I
For
got
you.
this. I'm me. I'm here in the flesh. It's all me. I'm done hiding myself because my scars make me who I am. So,
Yeah.
you
Yeah. That's beautiful. I love that you do that. I got goosebumps. I'm so
know.
proud of you. I
Yeah.
think that's
Thank
just
you.
great because we really do judge ourselves so much in this form, and we take, you know what? I mean, I try to take the approach. That's why people are like, how can you be a coach and know about energy? And I have a Reiki master too, and all the things I do, and be so loud. I'm like, because it does what life is could be fun. Like let's find the lighter side of the heavy. You know what I mean? Like let's just
Great.
find the lighter side of it,
Absolutely.
and like kind of laugh at ourselves too a little bit. That you know, look where we are. We came so far. This is to be celebrated.
Yeah. People take life too seriously, and and get offended. Everything is like, oh, I take
Everything.
offense to that. Just stop it.
I
Just stop.
know. Stay in your own lane and don't get offended by somebody else. Like there's nothing. Why? Nobody offends me. Do your thing. If
Right.
that's your thing,
You do
go do
your
it.
thing. I do my thing. Leave me alone. I'm doing my
Right.
thing for me, not for you. And
Right.
yeah, just live your life. Live your life for you. It's what you got
I'm
to do.
hoping though that we're making a turn with that. I just like I pray about that aspect that that we start as a society stop judging others, because truly what we're doing is judging ourselves. So if we could start doing the me work, that's what it is. All judgment comes here. If I'm not judging me, then I'm clearly don't have the desire to judge outside. So all judgment starts right here.
You're
So if I'm
absolutely
doing,
right.
if the planet starts working on ourselves, wow, think about the love we can share. And like, that's just like talking to you. It's like, you find your new friends in opening up and seeing that you're an individual. You have your own things. And while you're to be celebrated, well, so am I. We both are. And so hopefully the shift will start in our world, but it has to start with us.
It
It
does.
has to.
Yes, Sue. Well, one person is one person more, and hopefully we can have a domino effect and get the kindness and the love and the happiness and all the good energy out there,
Yeah.
and
One gen at a time. Oh,
I like that. I like that. Well, Jen, I could talk to you forever.
I
This is
love
just
it.
a good conversation and happiness, and it's fun. But so I will link everything up in the show notes for people to get a hold of you, how to connect, and absolutely how to get your book if they want to, take a look at that, and
Great.
definitely your YouTube channel and all your yummy
Thank
stuff. I will definitely be getting on there with my daughter, and maybe she can whip up something that sounds
If
yummy for
she
her.
wants to call me, because I know I have 2 daughters, so I know what it's like. She wants to say, "Hey, Jen," she could reach out and message me and say, "All right, I'm serious. All this healthy stuff. Like, tell me what I can eat. I really want to eat this." And we could
Yeah.
tweak a recipe, and it'll taste good. It's gotta taste good.
It's got to taste good. Otherwise, it's going right in the
What's
trash.
the point?
Who wants the stuff that's like, oh, the
Nobody
texture thing?
does.
Yeah, nobody wants to eat cardboard and be like, oh, that's yummy. No, it's not. It's not yummy.
Exactly. You're not fooling me.
Yeah. All right, Jen. Well,
Thanks.
enjoy the rest of your day, and it's been amazing talking to you. And I hope to talk with you soon. All
Thank you.
right.
Me too, honey. Have a
Great.
wonderful day, and thank you all.
Thank you. We'll talk to you soon, Jen. Bye.
Bye.